Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed part one of the interview with James and Rick. Part two gets much more into very rider specific coaching, training, the things that James has learned over the years. So I hope you enjoy part two. Part one was a bit of a hoot, lots of insight into James's background. Now we're going to get into a little bit of meat and I hope you enjoy it. So over to you, Rick and James. Bye.
Absolutely, yeah, it's all fascinating. But what do you think about people? Let's just say that they're gifted, or I want to get at an interesting phenomenon potentially. People that are fast, but they don't necessarily know what they're doing. So they're let's just call that an intuitive rider.
hmm
Do you agree? Would you do you agree that that exists? Like, there are riders that are just super duper fast and they're just naturally intuitively fast.
Yeah.
And what would you say to one of those people if they basically said, "Gee whiz, do you think I should come to a school?" What would you say to that person that's maybe they've won a championship or maybe a few races and they're obviously fast, never been coached? What are you going to say to that rider?
I mean, I would always say yes to that. Why would you not want to know what you don't know?
Is there a danger to being an intuitive fast rider more so than uh, somebody that's fast and been coached a bunch?
Um, uh, I mean, potentially. I don't know about inherently, but um, I mean, if you have someone that's really fast and they crash a lot, obviously there's a danger there if you don't sort that out.
Yeah,
You don't know what that hiccup is or that tendency is that you haven't
right.
looked at. I think in my view, you have what, you know, I don't know, what I would classify as competence, right? You have people that are competent, but they're not necessarily good at something,
Yeah,
but they're competent through the process in terms of where they're at. So I think um, so you have all these parameters like how hard you can brake, how light you can brake, how quick you can steer, how slow you can steer, how hard you can roll on the gas,
yeah,
how gently you can roll on the gas, right? How fast you can go, how far you can lean the thing over. Well, I think someone incompetent eh, is aware of their personal limitations. Is like, I know I can do this, and I can get away with this, and I know I can do this. And so now I have a good awareness of my personal skill set, and I can sort of put those together uh, to equal uh, whatever equation you're trying to
yeah,
work out, right? Well,
yeah,
then some people don't have awarenesses, those awarenesses. They're not sure what they can or can't do. So they're constantly going way above the limit or way below the limit.
yeah,
There's there's not a base set there. So someone that already has that sort of awareness, like they're a little bit easier to change and fix. And like, okay, good, you're doing this, and let's try doing this and see what do we get with that.
yeah.
Right? Because really,
So,
ultimately, what you're trying to do is develop more awareness of what's happening. What are the rules of the
yeah,
game?
yeah. So
And where do you,
everyone should, even if you're fast and intuitive, be observed and be coached, you know. What do you got to lose? It's only a plus. It's not if it's
yeah,
a good coach, it's not going to be a minus. Because we could throw out the theory that if you've never been coached, which is pretty rare, but let's just hypothetically say, hey, this guy's really fast, never been coached. It's just a matter of time, right? Like eventually something's going to catch up with them because there's something missing.
yeah, I
Like,
think, I mean, that at the very least, you're going to plateau at some point. You're like, well,
yeah,
how do I go faster if
yeah,
if you don't know some of the basic rules? right? Man, I've come across some very fast guys that were operating off of um, like a sort of standard concept, let's say, and that works very well for them, but they couldn't fine tune it or adjust it. It was just like I do it like this, and that's it. Well,
Yeah,
but this corner is not the same as that corner.
yeah,
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I just, like I brake to the apex, right? That would be sort of a standard one. Brake to the
yeah,
apex, get off the gas at the apex. It's, you know, it will open the door for you to a wide range of things and give you a lot of room to go fast, right? If you operate it off just that concept. But there's variables to it. And when you're going really fast, then we're going to start talking about nuances and fine adjustments to that equation, right?
yeah,
Uh, but it will get you a long, long ways, and it gets you a long, long ways, but then you can't change it because
yeah,
you're thinking about other things, you
yeah.
know?
And the longer that rider waits, the longer it takes to help put all that together later. You know what I mean? It's probably better to have more broad, understand all those nuances as early on as you can and understand. And maybe he can just map what he's doing onto the nuances perfectly and everything's fine.
Yeah,
But, tweak a couple things and, get to the next level. But this is a great opportunity right now for us to bring up uh, you telling me earlier this year that you had some sort of epiphany and you went up a level,
yeah,
which I kind of fell out of my chair when you told me that, but I guess everybody has another level,
yeah.
right? So I can't even wait to hear about it. Can you tell us? Like, can you explain?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was, I guess as your writing and your skill set evolves, right, you always run into areas where you have a little lack of certainty, right?
Okay.
This is not perfect, but you kind of put it aside and you work on other stuff or whatever, or uh, an apparent deficiency. You don't feel totally confident with something for whatever reason. Then when you go look at it, you're like, oh yeah, that's what that is. But um, for me, it was just involved braking
Okay.
basically, and um, I just I had just wanted to experiment with it more, right? Like, I mean, was pretty reasonably good at it, and but it's
You're so
uh,
modest. This is the coach. This is the coach after 18 years of coaching
yeah,
at the highest level. Okay. Now you're saying, yeah, you know, I'm just going to go play around with this.
yeah. I just wanted to, like, I reached my own plateaus a few times where I'm just
Yeah.
like, I'm riding pretty good. I'm doing what do I fix? What do I do better? And sometimes you get a little complacent and just get caught up in coaching, and then uh, but I just love to learn. So I was like, what can I improve here? And I thought the braking was area, and it's not just braking, right? Like I can use the brakes. I know how to use them. That is their relationship to lines. How do you change entrances into a corner? How do you keep the entry spin? That's the maybe the most difficult part of riding or riding fast is keeping the entry speed up and the mid corner speed up, uh, not overslowing or going in too fast. And what does that mean? In too fast or in too slow? What does that mean? You're like, I'm in too fast, I'm in too slow. It's just a feeling. Well, there's an actual result or effect, cause and effect of too fast and too slow.
You're feeling something specific for a reason.
Yeah, which
So how specific can you get on what it is you discovered?
um well, I just started experimenting with uh trail braking just in terms of of different lines and different approaches to the corner, right? Like you could like uh as uh, as a parameter, right? Like you could, or a theory, you could brake straight up and down, do most of your braking straight up and down, turn the bike into a corner with some amount of trail brake, if it was a corner that required braking, right? And release the brakes, turn pretty quick, get the gas on as soon as you can, and get out of there. Or I mean, what if you were going to pass somebody? Well, now you're gonna steer a little slower, uh, brake probably harder with less lean angle down towards the apex, and then finish your braking and steering, get back in line, get back to the gas, and try and uh, not lose too much speed. As there isn't necessarily a perfect line, but there is always a give and take, right? Now, I'm going to go in earlier, I'm going to take a shorter route, right? Whereas if I brake straight up and down, I can brake a little later and much harder and shorten up that decel time, which would technically equal more time on the gas. Um, if I shortcut it, distance is a big component that people don't think about or compensate for. Like a big corner, like at streets, you got the bowl, you got a big long radius corner, and there you can see it all the time as guys trying to make these outside passes, and they're going as fast as they can. Why some slower riders going around the inside, just dawdling along, and they still can't get by
Hmm.
because they're using a huge amount of distance,
Hmm.
and that's a critical component, and that's really what I think makes trail braking so effective is you can sort of get the best of both worlds, right? You can shortcut the corner and still carry a lot of speed in and still get your apex correctly, like, a basic idea on the line. If you turn in too early, you're going to run wide on the exit. If you turn in real late, um, you you have to use more and more lean angle and go a little slower.
Yeah.
So we're trying to, how do I get the best out of both worlds and which one works better for which corner? I mean, those are the extreme
Yeah.
pieces of it, and then in between you have just tons and tons of variables and ways you can blend your steering rate and brake release and entry speed and line to make the magic happen.
Or what did you get out of it that got you to the next level? Confidence or fast, higher corner speed, or you get to the gas sooner? All of the above?
Yeah, all of it, right? Like
Okay.
definitely more confidence on the front, right? To just zero in on the sweet spot, right? Like,
Gotcha. Okay.
to
Zero in
really
on the sweet spot. That's a good way to put it.
and
Okay.
so and then because ultimately, right, you have some basic rules to riding, and really what you want to get to is the art of it. The fun in it is creating a line. To me, I like the precision aspect of riding.
Yeah.
I like creating lines, and you add in other riders, and you got to adjust your line a little bit. How do you adjust your line and get by
Yeah.
somebody and not lose too much speed or any?
I have a video of us just this summer of me passing Morgan. So I'm on the midline going into 13 at the ridge. You're going to remember this.
Yeah,
I didn't know you were behind me, and I'm just falling down to 13. And then I'm just mashing on the brakes on the midline. And
yeah,
you come bombing by me on the low line. And I'm talking, it can't get any lower.
yeah,
You're on the low line going into 13, the worst fucking position you could possibly be in, right?
yeah,
Like exactly what you're talking about. It's like you gotta know. And so here's an exact example of, and then you just fucking mashed it, right? And then you just for fun, you hit the rear brake and you're like squealing your rear tire. and you whip right around. It's a for people that don't know, it's a downhill hairpin turn.
Yeah.
Toohey here is coming into that thing on the lowest line you could possibly think of, flying by me where I'm flying by another guy. It was the coolest. It's the coolest video, dude. And it's probably a great example of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
One shot. Let's go, let's go. You know that I won't lie like this. I don't wanna hide everything. Like, say that we're just friends, but no
Like you're on this impossible line, but you knew so well the sweet spot. You knew exactly, obviously, you knew exactly what you were going to have to do to make that corner.
Yeah, I
It
wasn't
was
tossing the
incredible to see
dice.
it.
I wasn't like, I hope I make this.
You really and truly knew you were good,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it's funny to say that shit, but I mean, you didn't really think there's nowhere to go on that corner. You can't miss it.
Yeah. You're gonna park it in one way or the other,
Yeah.
you know, slow mid corner. But
I
yeah,
need to send you that
you
video.
have I can tell you how to do it, but it doesn't translate until you actually go out and do it. And
Yeah.
it's diligent experimenting, sampling,
Yeah.
right? That gets you figured out. Is like you have your attention on the thing and you have a primary purpose, right? What is your uh wh- what is it that you're trying to accomplish? And say just
Right.
to the apex, no matter where you turn. Someone asked me that one time, is like, how do you turn from anywhere on the track and still make it to the apex? I'm like, because I look at the apex, that's where I want to go. So I make all my adjustments to suit getting there. It's not it's not like, oh, because I brake harder straight up and down, or I trail brake more, or I steer the bike quicker. It's because you look there, and because there's always a variable. Maybe the speed's a little different or line's a little different. So you're just making little adjustments to get you to that point, right? And
It's super
they
interesting.
it all
And I
blends
won't,
together, and that's how you get your own style, your own form. That's how you have riders that ride differently but accomplish basically the same thing. That's
yeah.
you're trying to get through a corner in the shortest period of time,
Yeah.
right?
In and out of it. Yeah.
Yeah, in and out of
Is that what
it.
you mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, another interesting fact, I hate to keep talking about my observations, but I can't help it. Riding with you and the school for so long. On this note, one of the things that I have observed is that I put you and Johnny in a category I call the lowliners.
It's
But
just
you're saying it like it's obvious.
Well, I mean, it's difficult when you ask me about this because it's a sort of really complex subject, right? And if you
Okay.
get good at something, it seems very simple to you, right?
Yeah.
You talk to any professional riders or coaches that are professional riders, and that's where you kind of sort of run into some trouble with that, is that you got these very talented riders that are very good at what you're talking about, and it can be difficult to communicate because they don't have the awarenesses that you have, or even just the experience, right? They've done it enough times with the different variables and worked out a system that works well for them,
Yeah.
right? Some guys will turn really, really early and brake really, really hard, and bike setup. There's all kinds of things that are relevant, but what we want to do is communicate a simplicity.
Yeah.
How do you get good at riding, right? Quickly. That was always like we were talking about, not to go off topic, but talking about different types of students. So when I look at a student and I talk to him, whether he told me he's has all this experience or has no experience, all I'm trying to figure out is what are his aptitudes? What is he doing, right? And what's the correct approach or gradient to get him to improve on each of these aspects of riding? right? And everyone's a little different. So it's your approach has to be manageable or digestible, absorbable, right?
Yeah.
You have to be able to take it in the right amount. And everyone's uh, download process is a little faster, a little slower, depending on your experience um, and who's coaching you, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Uh, so I can tell you how to do it, but you have to also your own responsibility as a rider is to figure out those parameters and tell guys I don't take my word for it. Go do it and see what you get,
Yeah.
right?
That's
Go
good.
develop some awareness of what is happening when you make this action and um uh and you also have a directive or an overriding purpose that you're operating off of. And if you don't have that, then everything is is arbitrary or random, right? You see guys their lines are different all the time, and well, their objective getting through a corner is different than mine. It's not that I have, necessarily more aptitude or ability. I mean, maybe I have more ability at the time, but my objective is clear of what I want to do and what I want to accomplish. And then experience allows you to fine tune that.
Yeah. Can you put that objective in a nutshell for the a corner? What is your objective?
I would say, you're asking me about guys that are naturally fast, I think, and there's a lot of guys that have become very fast professional racers and probably had never any coaching, right? But you'd have to have a sense of line, but I think you have to have, um, as a primary objective would be to be on the gas as soon as you can, as hard as you can, as long as you can, right? That's the main thing, right? If you're
That's
off
a
the
nice
gas,
nugget. That's a nice nugget.
right? And then so then if that's my objective, how do I get through this corner so I can get on the gas earlier? So your awareness of what your hand is doing is is critical, right? And then how is your line affected, your route affected? And then in order to facilitate all that, you need an apex, you need a middle of the corner, right? Because we're just going outside to inside to outside, and then
Hmm.
all variations of corners. And if your objective is to steer the bike and slow it to the middle or an apex, and then get on the gas as soon as you can, as hard as you can, as long as you can, right? That sorts out that corner and the next corner, right? Which is kind of where people get in trouble is they try and make up all the time, staying longer, longer, longer on the gas, coming to a corner, and then they're just over brake. I got to brake later, longer, harder, whatever, and just wind up over slowing because they don't have an actual that braking scenario does not line up to the primary objective, which is make it to your apex and get on the gas.
What about a potential objective of how many times you steer? Could that be an objective that
Uh,
would change things?
oh yeah, that for me
What would be?
that was a huge component um, uh, in figuring lines out. Is like steer it in one time, roll on the gas one time. If you're having a lot of adjustments, then you've made an error,
Okay.
right? And then, not that there's anything inherently wrong with an adjustment, but we're, I think we're always trying to shoot for perfection, and
Yeah.
then we wind up where we wind up, right? But we want to minimize the errors. Some errors are dangerous, some errors are just errors and they just result in not getting through the corner as fast, right?
Yeah.
And I like the precision of it, right? And steering
Yeah.
at one time is a huge indicator of, right, how accurately getting that. So you can put that into your format there of steer it once to an apex and roll it on once to
Yeah.
an exit from an apex to an exit or something
Right.
like that.
So
Um,
having an objective oriented riding regime could be very important.
Yeah.
So if somebody's going to go out and ride and they know that they're confused on lines. I'm just giving you an example that I want you to correct me. But somebody's going to go out there and let's just say you're talking to your nephew and he's going to go out on a track day and you're not just on the phone. He says, "Hey, Uncle James, like, what should you know, I'm not sure I'm riding the right lines. Like, what could I do?" Wouldn't it be nice and simple and easy to say, "Hey, just as an objective, just get to a place where you can just steer one time. If you can do that, if you can only steer one time and accomplish the corner, you've already eliminated like 80% of the shit you're doing."
Yeah.
That's what you're saying. That's what you're telling us.
That's how you
Have
simplify it.
an objective oriented riding regime and make certain objectives happen, and it eliminates a lot of the noise and things that we're doing wrong. How about braking? How many times do we want to brake?
Um,
If, well, we're always going to brake, but how many times do we want to have the handlebar brake?
yeah, I mean, ideally you break once and just slowly let it go and be
And it
done.
seems so simple to you, right?
Yeah.
But this is another objective.
But again, if you get into the nuances of it, are there going to be little adjustments? Sure.
Sure, yeah, of
If
course.
someone's new and I tell them, yeah, yeah, make whatever adjustments you need, uh, you can do that. Um, but you want to shoot for like a single input, a single off, a single on, right? Like you've seen guys go in and they're just kind of on and off the gas, right? Oh, oh, too soon.
Yeah,
Right? If if you like tried to eliminate that just as an objective to just roll it off once, steer in, roll it on once, you would start zeroing in on a good line pretty
yeah,
quickly. You would have a very nice baseline.
of
Then
course.
once you can do that pretty well, pretty confidently, like however you're doing it, it's going to be way more right than wrong.
Yeah. And then add in one steering input and one braking input, you're
Yeah,
getting somewhere.
yeah,
Yeah, like you're making shit happen.
yeah.
That's pretty cool. Can you explain in detail, um, what do you consider to be? I personally see a lot of confusion on this, so I want you to explain it. What's one braking input? I know it's simple in your head, but because people get confused with trail braking. So can you just explain what does one braking input include?
On braking is sort of uh, a reversal, right? So you just grab the brakes once and let go of them slowly once, right?
Okay.
But it is going to be in relation to steering. I mean, ideally, if you need to grab the brakes, uh, you would want to get the majority of the braking done before you start steering, and then if as a basic pattern, you would let go and steer,
Yeah.
let go of the
So what
brakes,
we're
steer
what
in some
yeah.
ratio or rate.
Is it true that what you're really saying is it's not ideal to grab the brakes and then let go and then go back to the brakes? That's kind of what we're saying.
Yeah, yeah. If you let go and that all happens, you want to time it so it's, you're releasing, you know, to and through the steering, as opposed to grab the brakes and then dump the brakes and then like, oh, it's a little fast, and then grab the brakes again and then dump it and then steer in.
Yeah.
That, you're just making the front end go up and
Yeah.
down.
We don't
Right.
want to do digital braking.
Right.
We want to flip the switch on and then slowly flip the switch off.
Flip the
It's
switch on
analog.
and then dimmer it off.
Yeah. Okay. So it's analog braking and not digital, on and off, on and off. We're not
Yeah,
doing
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Okay. And of course, we're qualifying all of this with there's always nuance, right?
And braking too is a huge amount of
Yeah.
nuance, and but you just have to start experimenting with it first. And I just suggest always, when you're learning to trail brake, just do it with really very light brakes. And people are always like smashing the brakes in there and trying to steer. And unfortunately, with motorcycles, and there's uh, conditions change when you're reaching limits, you know, uh, and then there's information out there that's very confusing,
Yeah.
uh, especially in braking and steering. Counter steering is not the most intuitive thing, right? And like, I think, I don't know. If I want to get into all that, it gets a little technical as far as how the brakes are affecting
Hey
the
man, go.
chassis
You
and
go if
its
you want to go.
ability to steer the motorcycle into the corner. Does it shorten the wheelbase? Yeah, it does shorten the wheelbase. Would that technically make a chassis easier to steer? Yes, it would. But if you've ever been in a corner off the brakes and tried to grab the brakes and you were light on the bars, you would notice that it steers the bike back up, makes it want to stand up. So uh, the brakes, if you overuse them, will make the front the bike steer itself upright. It doesn't but it makes it tighten the line. So how is it standing up and tightening the line? Well, it's tightening the line via speed because it's the speed, just like the throttle is controlling some direction with speed. The the brakes are controlling direction with speed and a decrease of speed,
Hmm.
right? So that the deceleration is what's tightening up the line. And so if you could imagine having no bar pressure and having the brakes on, well, the bike's gonna stand up a bit to some
Yeah.
degree, depending on how hard you are on the brakes or how abrupt. Not
Okay.
generally grabbing the brakes while you're leaned over, but that concept can be a little confusing. But uh, slowing down tightens up the line,
Yeah.
right? And the
So,
brakes
and yeah,
help it slow down faster, so the line tightens up faster.
you
Uh,
could use that to your advantage, could you not?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
hugely.
Yeah. Big
It's
time.
critical
Yeah.
component and skill for sure to have.
What happens if a bike's leaned over and you get on the gas? What happens?
Well, it depends on. I mean, it
For the
depends on
line.
how
For the
depends on
line.
how hard you get on the gas, right? It
Yeah.
just at some point, you
Let's
know,
say that I'm defeating speed reduction because so
yeah.
let's just say I add it to negate slowing down. Do you have a name for that? Is there a name? Like this is how much gas I need to just not slow down while
Well,
I'm
yeah, that requires some awareness of your line, your
okay.
direction, right?
Right.
Because the gas is, affected by uh, physical forces. So the second you open the gas, you don't stop slowing down, right?
Right. Yeah.
You'll slow down a little bit if you think of it like that, like as you're slowing down with the gas off, and as soon as you open it, you're just slowing down a little bit less, and you open a little more, and you're slowing down a little bit less, and as you open the gas, eventually, uh, the speed stays the same, and then as you open the gas more, then the speed starts to go up,
Yeah.
right? And as the speed goes up, then the line pushes out.
There we go. Okay. So if I get past that point where I'm maintaining speed and I start to add more gas, the line goes where?
Goes out.
Goes
Will
out.
get
Yeah.
wider. The radius will get
Yeah.
wider.
So the radius
Sure.
goes out. So you could use that to your advantage too, right?
Yeah,
That's the fun of it, really.
yeah,
It's like how hard can I roll on this thing? How early did I start?
yeah.
And that's going to change my line. So that changes the whole plan.
Well, I would say that's what controls your line.
Yeah.
And so if you're not aware of how it's going to change your line, then you don't want it to be like uh, obviously you don't want to be effect of the gas. You want to be in control of the gas, right? And your direction. So I want to go over there and I'm going to roll the gas on until I get there,
Yeah.
right?
Which you might be leaned over is kind of where I'm getting at.
Yeah, I
But
mean, obviously you're not going to leave it leaned over all the way till you're in the dirt. So you have to steer the bike in, right? Just like
yeah.
you're blending steering in with releasing the brake, you're blending steering out with increasing the gas.
Nice. Well said, sir.
Yeah. And
That's
so,
great.
however you blend those together is part of your creation. And, and
I love that. Your creation. That's great. That's so good. Wait, that's another nugget. Oh, hang on. That's good. Um, do you have, can you throw out a common mistake that you see a lot of? Is there one that's at the top of the list or maybe a couple?
There's definitely more than a couple, but
What do you got?
usually they're um, derived from poor generic advice, but vision is probably the main thing.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Where and when you're looking. So, I mean, um, so it's common to say look through a corner, or look all the way through. Maybe it gets misinterpreted. I got to look as far as I can, or, you just want to look where you're going,
Yeah.
right? I mean, if you're steering into somewhere, where is that? Where is that somewhere? Where is it? Did you pick a destination, or is it just that kind of happening, right?
Is there a human trait connected to doing that is not
Well,
advantageous to steering?
you
Yeah,
know, you just have to read Twist of the Wrist. I mean, Keith
yeah,
explained all that pretty well, and the survival reactions, and you know, trying to avoid fear and or avoid danger, and
yeah.
um, so if you can keep your eyes on you know, where you want to go. I mean, that's the simplicity. I mean, where you want to go next, not where you want to go in way in the future,
Yeah.
right? Um, I
Interesting.
mean, the eyes are super critical, and there's definitely some bad advice out there, and there's everyone has their own uh, abilities in relation to that, but we can keep it calm and just keep it flowing on where you want to go. Like, it doesn't have to be on a racetrack. Wherever you're riding around in the street, right? And car pulls out in front of you. You don't look at the car. You look at whether you want to go behind it or in front of it,
Yeah.
right? Uh,
Well,
or
there's one thing we already talked about, but didn't get too specific about it, but adding throttle and lean angle at the same time,
yeah, yeah.
that can be,
I just saw this guy explain this on YouTube, right? And he's saying, don't do that, but it wasn't really correct on why or what the result was.
mhm,
But I mean, that's one of those things that you see all the time on YouTube videos is guys running wide, right? There, you just simply have those two actions that make the bike go wide, the gas and the handlebars.
yeah,
And well, if you're going out wider than you want, then you need to change directions, right? And so you
mhm,
have the gas and handlebars to change directions. You
yeah,
just don't typically want to add lean angle uh, if you're um, at least have enough gas on. You would at least just want to stop rolling on the gas. I mean, ideally, you roll it off, right? And a lot of times that'll just sort it out. If you're not way off, you just stop rolling on the gas or roll it off a little bit and let it come back in online and be
we're
where you want.
so we're so into the thick of what I find a lot of people don't understand. So it's so interesting to hear you talk about it. But if the bike's leaned over and I don't add lean angle, if it's just leaned over, it's okay to add gas.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. there's we already talked about what's going to happen is we're just going to go wider. But if
Yeah.
that's planned, who cares? Right? So being
Yeah.
leaned over and adding gas is not typically a big, huge deal unless you add so much that you lose traction.
Correct.
So what you're really talking about is adding gas when you add lean angle.
Yeah.
You see a lot of people get that mixed up. So it's okay to add at a constant lean angle and make sure that you know that you're going to go wide, but don't add them both at the same time. The add is the important word.
Yeah. Well, it's really what is adding speed,
Yeah.
right? You know, enough gas, and that's another misunderstanding is that just because you have the gas on does not mean you're increasing speed. It could just mean you're slowing down less, right?
Yeah.
So if the gas is pushing you out and you just start leaning it over, you're likely going to be in some kind of trouble,
There you go. Beautiful nugget. That's
right?
a nugget.
So you're either going to exceed the traction limits or you're
Yeah.
going to exceed the lean angle limits
Yeah.
because you only have so much lean angle to work with. That's your parameter. That's your hard parameter, right? And
Is that a common mistake?
yeah, that's pretty common.
Okay, well, we beat that one to death. That's pretty good.
Someone told me, one of the coaches, that like reminded me of something I said to somebody. I was like, he was doing that same sort of thing, running really wide, almost ran off the track, and just trying to get him an awareness of what he was doing. And was like, so what? Were you on or off the gas? And he was like, oh, I don't know. I was like, well, you don't know what your hand was doing, right? It's your hand, right? You think it might be a good idea to know what your hand is doing, right? It's pretty critical,
Yeah,
right? Uh, I mean, of
that's
all the
pretty good.
things to be aware of, right?
Yeah,
Your right
being a
hand is
coach,
a pretty critical one, right?
it's just so interesting to observe you guys as coaches because there's really not a lot of gray area, man, like that. I mean, you need to actually, you need to try to, I'm repeating what you've told me before, but you're always trying to ride the perfect line all the time, right? Because
Yeah,
people are watching you, even if it's not your student, there's still somebody that sees the coach and they see you ride. And so you have this responsibility of trying to do everything right all the time
yeah,
and being aware of it, which is what you're talking about. So know where your fingers are, know where your feet are, know what your hands doing. I'm going to give another example just because I had this experience with you and Johnny recently. I was talking to Johnny about at the bottom of the hill and at the ridge, whatever turn that is, 9 or something, whatever the bottom of the hill is. And he said, I said, yeah, man, there's got to be like a little breeze blowing or something. My front end is just getting a little unstable going up this hill, right? And you and I are just rolling up that thing like, pegging it in third gear or whatever.
yeah,
And but it seemed like more than just a little bit light in the front. It seemed like there was a wind.
yeah,
So I just haphazardly said that, and he goes, "Oh, where are you at? Where are you at down at the bottom?" And I said, "Well, I'm running up on the stripes for sure. Oh, like more than a little bit on the stripes." And he's like, "Well, that's pretty bumpy right in there."
yeah.
And I'm like, "What? What? How do you know that? Like, what? How many times you guys? Like, I thought that was my little line." And I've never seen him ride down in there. I've never
Yeah,
seen him or you ride down in there.
yeah,
But yet he knew the terrain, like of 4 feet of track.
yeah,
And then not only that, then he said, "Well, why don't you try to grab fourth gear, see if that calms it down a little bit." And
yeah,
I'm like, "Johnny, that makes no sense to me, but I'll do it. I'll do it." And then I went out there and I'm like, "Whoa, third gear!" I'm like, "Man, the front end's going like this," and poof, second gear, bam,
yeah,
stable. And I had to really think hard about why that made the bike. It didn't change my speed.
Yeah.
I just changed gears.
That
And
transition on the hill more calm too.
stable as hell following you over the top of that hill.
Yeah.
And that was just a side comment from a guy that, you know, is a great coach, not my coach that day. You were my coach that day, and we had our own thing going on. He just threw that out as a little, tidbit for me. Thank you.
Yeah.
But I guess the reason I'm telling this story is because you guys observe everything, man.
Yeah.
You guys observe everything, every little thing. And then you learn these extra little things that I don't even know where you get that. It's like, who figured that out? Who do you think figured that out?
Oh, a lot of experimenting,
Yeah,
right? And there is like running over the curb. Like we've done that. I've done it a bunch of times. What is it like? I fucking blast it,
yeah,
see what happens. And then sometimes you have a line like that. Seems like, oh man, that's a shorter line. That looks really good. And then you do it at full pace and you're like, oh, that's no
yeah,
good.
yeah. A little sketchy.
Yeah, yeah, it slides too much or whatever. Um, but if you can cut a little distance off, right, or make a slightly straighter route, then that's for sure an advantage. And the faster you're going, the more those literally inches and couple of degrees angle one way or the other in the middle of the corner make a big difference. And it
Yeah.
adds up a lot. Like people don't realize how much that precision adds up in terms of uh, less lean angle, a little more speed through the corner, a little sooner off the brakes, a little sooner to the gas, a little harder on the gas. It's just that little zone right there is just so critical
So
in,
correct me if I'm wrong. You said inches,
yeah, inches.
inches, inches.
Yeah, me and Johnny were playing at streets and
Yeah.
um and they resurfaced it, but they have no curbing there.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It took the curbs out, so it's just the asphalt drops off. And so they have some of them have little berms, and so we ride those berms in some of the corners, right? And that I was like, I was coaching this guy, and he's like, "Man, you guys are so close." I'm like, "Yeah, why?" He's like, "Why are you so close there?" I go, "Because I'd rather be close here than risk being off on the exit, right? Like stuck pointed in the wrong direction or go slower or whatever it is." But then he's like, "Who's that guy on number five?" He's talking about Johnny. He was like, half his tire was off of the track. He's like really berming it, right? We
Yeah.
were we were having a game playing with that, right? And
Yeah.
uh, improving that precision, right? And you have to search for that precision. That literally is because there's a couple spots there where, probably 6 inches is the difference between going fast or not because the surface is different. Then there's some bumps in an area you don't want to go. So you're trying to get in underneath, like cars, the car tires make bumps in certain areas sometimes, and or the track just wasn't paved perfectly. And so if you can find a smoother line, you can go faster because you have more traction. And
Mm.
if you have a slightly shorter route, you can go faster because you can be on the gas sooner. And so these little angles make a difference. And if you can get on the inside, and a lot of times it's where no one ever goes, right? The
Yeah.
asphalt's a little bit nicer, and it can be very advantageous. But you have to be willing to get close to the edge of the track. When you have a track with nice curbs, like at the ridge where you can run a curb over, right? How good is your confidence getting close to the inside,
Yeah.
right? It's great.
Yeah. Or
How good?
following you over the top of the hill at Thunder Hill. Going over the top of that hill in the back.
Um,
Not the one in the very back, but the where the flagging station is at the
oh
right
yeah,
hand.
yeah, yeah. And you kind of
Yeah.
wheelie off there into nowhere.
Just I mean if you're on the edge of the track going over that thing, man, I hit the cone. There's a cone out there. I hit the damn cone with my knee once.
Yeah,
Following you, man. All I could do was just some of that happens naturally. It's like I need every inch if I'm trying to run you down, which is let's just be honest. I can't really, but if you're letting me try to run you down, let's put it that way. Some of that comes naturally. It's just like, I need every inch of this pavement.
Yeah.
It's an instant. I see the line. Why
Yeah.
would I be a foot over here when I can be right here? I need it. He's gonna
Yeah.
pull on me. The most precise riders I've ever seen
Yeah.
in my couple decades of riding on the racetrack. I mean, you guys, what you were just saying about precision, that's no joke, man.
Yeah.
You guys know exactly where your tires are.
Yeah.
I mean, the knee, how far is your knee from the tire? It's
Feet.
like 3 feet.
Yeah.
You're not worried about your knee. You're not worried about your elbow. You're not worried about your foot peg. You're not worried about shit. You're worried about 3.5 feet to the outside of all of that stuff, which is your tire patches, man.
Yeah.
And you know where that is.
I mean, that's as close as you can get, right?
It's just so funny to talk to you guys, man. It's so funny. It's really kind of a privilege.
But that is the challenge, right? Like you don't you don't see guys at high levels missing apexes by very much. I mean, they do, but it's an error. They got in a
Yeah,
little fast, and they're just like,
yeah,
well, at some point, you know, there's no you don't get a return for stopping and getting back to it, right? You've already
yeah,
blown it. You just kind of keep going and manage the error.
yeah. But
But
just the simple things like when you just said what you just said about opening up your exit by saving 6 inches on the
yeah,
inside, that is monumental. Like people, I can see students hearing that and registering it and then not really understanding. It's like that's all you guys are thinking about. You're thinking about, if I can get down here on the edge of the track, the world is my oyster on the exit.
the losses are exponential.
Yes, it's a huge deal. So that is why I'm just trying to help everybody understand what you're saying, which that's why it's so critical to you guys to be so precise. And the precise really means as close as you can be without going off your line that you
Yeah,
want. That opens up a world of decisions and opportunities on the exit of the corner. Tell me, what does that do for you on the exit? What do you get from having all that real estate, and you get on the gas sooner,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because you can let the bike drift out. What
Well,
else?
I mean, it'd be like you can steer the bike up faster, right? You can get on the gas a little sooner. You have a little more room down track. Then if you have
Yeah,
more space, there's more room to go faster and give it more gas. If you're experienced and you've run a line, let's say in a corner, and you've done that over and over again, right? And then you need to pass somebody, you already know what adjustment to make. I know how much more brake I need, how much more I need to slow down, how much more angle I need to minimize the loss, right? Because you're at some point you're taking a loss, right? So like you see it in racing all the time. Someone gets low line, they go a little wide, the guy just goes back by underneath, right?
yeah,
And then come back around and the guy does it again and tries to just time it a little bit better and get the angle a little bit better so the guy can't come back underneath. He's
yeah.
still taking a loss. He just didn't take
Shutting
a
the door. Yeah,
yeah. And so I always say, if you want to go faster or be safer with the least amount of effort, without any other effort, just get closer to the apex.
good
Everything
nugget.
gets
Is that
better.
another nugget? So, dude, I've been teasing you about this book for a few years now. Please tell me that you're gonna eventually, at some point in your life, write the Nugget book.
Yeah, I guess I'll just have to start have conversations like this, make a bunch of notes.
Yes, I'm telling you, you got to carry around a a recorder. Just
Yeah,
carry it around.
yeah,
When these nuggets pop into your head, I mean, I could write a book just off of nuggets you've said in my presence.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine 20 years of you talking to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of students,
Yeah.
and you're just letting all these nuggets just fly off into space.
Yeah. A lot
And
of them are one-off sometimes, you know.
yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for all of that. I mean, it's don't ever stop handing out the nuggets. Yeah, I kind of skipped over a lot of the actual California Superbike School thing. Do you want to hit that a little bit or
Sure. I mean,
okay?
the coaching is a massive part of it, right?
Okay, so coaching, you obviously didn't start out being like the badass, awesome coach that you are now. Uh, I got to experience your coaching, you know, I think you were my coach even like 16, 17 years ago.
Yeah.
You were a pretty young dude. Uh, but what you were still a level four coach even then, I think, right? So,
Uh, yeah, probably at least level three. I think we talked about before. I was already had the books. I read all of those books over and over until they were falling apart, you know. And
oh, and then you did the tryout. Yeah.
yeah, well, then I did the school, and then uh, I raced for a number of years. Then I did the tryout. Back in the day, there, I think I just got approved to be on track. I was on track for like 3 days, and then Kobe's having me train somebody else. He's like, "Hey, can you train this guy for me?" I'm like, "I don't even know what I'm doing, man." Yeah, but actually, those
You
are
made it
always
happen.
those are always good experiences, right? Like, and that's why coaching is such a good experience because it forces you to take a look at how well you know what you're talking about,
Yeah.
right? Like if if I learn something and I'm like, well, I'm gonna go share this with Rick, and in the middle of telling you I lose my way or it doesn't make sense to you, then I didn't understand it well enough. Then I
Yeah.
go, okay, what did I miss there? And go back and relook at it until I have a really good understanding. And your ability to simplify something, is a good indicator of your ability to understand something.
Yeah.
And that's
I
a
totally agree with that. 100%. Yeah.
and that's a constant endeavor. I'm always looking to simply, even though there's lots of intricate nuances, right? We have to start with a simplicity. You have to start with getting to an apex. You have to, right, start with some basic understanding, right?
Yeah.
And start blending everything together until you have what becomes yours.
You have a lot of students that come in there, uh, of all kind of different mentalities, right?
Yeah.
It's like, here's a big one. I'm a really good street rider. This is going to be a piece of cake to ride on the racetrack.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're so used to the the response to that you're just really calm right now. But what's your response to that? What do you already know when that person says that?
That they ride a lot on the street or
And that they think they're just going to master the racetrack because they think they're a good street rider.
oh, I don't have a response to that. I'm just like, okay, that's great. I just acknowledge them and then we just move forward and we
That's so
identify
professional of you.
what we're
That's
going to
so
identify.
professional of you. But what we know, man, is they're going to find out pretty damn quick,
Oh yeah.
PDQ, that they're not
Yeah, they're going to figure that out, right?
quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's so common, it's ridiculous. You're just kind of acting like whatever. But you're a professional coach, so you're just like, okay, well, let's just go see. Fine.
You're at where you're at, right? Like
Yeah.
either you're the fastest guy in your group on the street or you're the fastest guy in your intermediate group and you just got moved up to advanced group and uh and you're feeling pretty studly, right? But your advanced group is in some nowhere town and five guys in the group and no one has any racing experience, so you're still the fastest of the slow guys, right?
Yeah. So
And- or-
how many times have you heard, uh, yeah, man, I thought I was a pretty good rider.
yeah, oh
Like
yeah,
a million probably.
a lot.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
the track will wise you up pretty good. I don't know why I'm fighting for that point so much, but
I mean,
to
I think,
me,
well,
yeah,
I think it's a perspective. It's important. I think that, um, if you're a bit of a know-it-all, it makes learning very difficult, right? And to go in like I'm willing to learn, like I think this is where I'm at, but let's take a look and see what's here and see what I can improve. And if you go in, to anything that you're learning and think that you don't have anything to learn, then you're not going to learn anything,
yeah,
right? Or if you're just trying to show someone how good you are at something, well, that's not going in with an attitude to learn.
yeah,
Like, I don't care how good you are. I don't care if you're brand new and know nothing, or if you're highly experienced. I'm going to try and figure out something for you to learn and grow with and take with you. That's
yeah,
my objective. I'm not prejudiced in terms of experience or inexperience or fast or
yeah,
slow. Those are irrelevant to me, right? It's just part of the puzzle so that I can deliver to you what you need and want.
yeah,
Right? But if, sometimes some medium and fast track guys can be the worst because they, like, I'm feeling pretty awesome, right? And they find out sometimes that they're not awesome and that it's sometimes a difficult pill to swallow, right? Or they just have a good attitude and you're like, oh man, I'm going to be even more awesome. Okay, great. I like that attitude. I just want to learn. I'd rather, you know, um, I want to have something to reach for, I mean, for myself, I'm going to learn something. I can, no one wants to suck really,
yeah,
but everyone's starting somewhere. I mean, like you go in a martial arts class and some meathead comes in there and he goes, I'm going to show these guys what's up. And, you get wrapped up and shoved into a corner. Right.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, good job,
Well,
buddy.
yeah, I know. You're being really nice right now, so I'm just gonna let you roll with that, and it's the great equalizer, man. It's
Well, I
like,
think a lot of those guys don't come to the school, really,
right,
right? Because they're too good already, So just by coming, and reaching, you still get a few of those guys that are not willing to be wrong or not willing to be good or something like that. But they're already like wanting to find something.
and I consider a track day a learning environment. Unfortunately, maybe that's my problem.
It
But when I
is.
go to the track for a track day, I'm really there to work on an agenda. And I hear a lot of people talking about, you know, somebody passed me or nobody passed me that whole session. Okay, well maybe every other rider was working on something and nobody cared about passing you. I don't know.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean anything.
Everyone is going to get passed,
Yeah,
right? And eventually you're going to do some passing,
yeah,
right? And, the better you are at your riding, the easier it is to learn to pass. Passing is another whole subject, right? A complicated subject that requires really good timing to not run into somebody. And it's a very, very fun part of it. So when guys come in and they're like, wow, it's too many slow guys. You're like, so good, good. Learn how
yeah,
to pass, right? You obviously aren't good at it. You know who doesn't complain about it? Good riders.
yeah,
Guys that know how to pass. They never, ever complain about slow riders.
yeah,
Never. That's your responsibility. Learn
yeah.
how to do it.
How did you get to the position you're in today and what do you call it? What do you call your position at the school?
Oh, I just call myself a coach, but senior coach, right?
Okay.
I help, you know, with the training of all the other coaches, so that's a pretty cool other aspect of the job you don't really think about initially. You're coaching riders, and then you start
Yeah.
coaching coaches. That's super fun, right? Really,
Mhm.
really, really smart guys and talented guys, and there's a different approach to that whole thing, or teaching them how to communicate or get concept across to people, right? And we don't want anybody that is a robot, right? Or not to trying to indoctrinate someone into some routine, but it's just like riding, right? There's the rules. You get good at those basic actions, and then you get into the art of it. You get into the creative aspect. You're like, how can I blend this and this, right? And then you add another rider in. How do I make some adjustments here so I can still get through the corner fast and get by this guy without it slowing me down too much? Some
Mhm.
guys just try and get by the guy, right? And coaching the same thing, right? Like there's a right way to do it. And then once you have a good idea of how to do that, then you can start creating your own way. You start making it your own, right? It's like start being creative, right? I hear coaches say stuff all the time. I'm like, wow, that is amazing.
One of the really cool things about learning, and of course, the school was a great place to learn. It's the only school I really focused on. Um, you learn. The fun part is you. One of the fun parts is you get to learn about yourself. So, in other words, um, what am I as a writer? You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
it's weird, but it's fun. And so, for example, I learned that I'm a late breaker. And if I didn't watch motorcycle racing, I wouldn't even know what that means.
yeah,
But I know that I am
yeah,
because I watch my videos, I talk to you guys. I'm like, shit, I never would have guessed that I was a late breaker, but I just am. It
yeah.
kind of just feels natural to me. So one of the fun, there's other things, but one of the fun things about learning a new thing uh, is what you're saying about the coaches is what's my angle? What am I as a rider?
That's a good perspective, really quick, is right. You want to have a good idea of what are your aptitudes
Yes.
and what are your, the things that you need to work on, the things that you need to improve, or the things that you're not good at, right? It's not just what you're not good at. What are you good at, right?
Right.
Like braking, right? Like that's a good perspective is like, oh, I'm good at that. Oh, okay, good. I don't, some guys think they're not good at it and then try and go way over a limit, right?
Yeah. Let's paint this picture for everybody. The Superbike School where James is employed, you're an employee. You're an employed full-time coach. This is unique,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So maybe we didn't explain that at all, but the Superbike School employs their coaches. Not all of them are full time, but James and several other coaches are full time coaches. You get a paycheck from the school. You're not taking money from a student.
yeah,
Students are paying the school. The school, you work at the school. There's a crew. There's a stable of bikes. There's a stable of people that maintain everything. It's a big deal. It's an enterprise,
yeah,
right? And it's very unique because most other coaches are track day coaches and they're coaching on the weekend or they're racers and so they're trying to coach and race and they see simple things, but this is a place where the coaches are employed. There's a system in place to document students and where they are and where they've been and where they're going. You guys are keeping track of all of that stuff. It's a big deal.
yeah.
It's no joke, right? It's a full, and there's a system to the whole thing. So I don't know that we clarified that, but that's where you've been for the last how many years of your life?
Yeah, 22 years. Yeah.
I just can't conceive of what is in your head.
Yeah, it's hard. It went by so fast.
I mean, if you had to pick a guy, if a war started and we needed to train, you know, we needed a whole bunch of really good motorcycle riders, you're the man. It's
Yeah.
like, right? It's like, who else are you going to call? I'm going to call the guy that has the most track experience in the country, trying to paint the picture for people of what you are. It's unbelievable. It's beyond 22 years of being on the track as a full-time coach,
Yeah.
every single session of every day.
Yeah, it's an experience, man. You've collected a lot of data, right? And everyone's a little different, right? The coaches have different personalities and
Yes,
different
for sure.
approaches, right? And do their own thing. And we're just trying to deliver some truth, right? And in our own way. And it's better when it's in your own way. Like, some, like you said, there's a lot of good coaches, and some guys get along with other guys better. Some guys are, for whatever reason, right? Doesn't
Yeah,
really matter. But you are getting a good product, man. If you can listen to what is trying to be communicated to you, right? And sometimes you have to put the personality aside, right? Like it's like, okay, what is he actually trying to tell me?
yeah,
Can I work with this, right? Golf's a really good analogy because there's so many little pieces, and there's not a chance in the world that any person on the planet could think their way through those little pieces
yeah,
in swing, right? Whether a club head's moving 100 miles an hour, right? It's like a second or half a second it takes to swing a club, and you're going to think your way through. But the second you put your attention on that one little piece, your attention comes off of your target, right? And your brain has to, you know, compensate,
yeah,
right? So you wind up with a shitty shot. You're like, well, I did it better. I go, well, what did you do wrong? You did a bunch of other things that you changed along with that, likely, right? But thinking creates tension, right? Because there's also a lack of certainty that you're gonna uh,
yeah.
get something right, or you just anxiously want to get it right, or anxiously don't want to get it wrong.
It's the same. We're talking about the same thing. It's just so funny that well, I think it's cool that you're talking about it because you're a motorcycle riding coach that understands those things.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey man, there's so much more to talk about. Let's see if let's see if people are interested, man. We'll finish it off. We'll
Okay.
do another one. And you can think about some more of your nuggets.
Yeah.
I just want to say this part for the subscribers to know is how much I appreciate you being in my life and my coach for almost my whole riding career. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm ramping down now, as you probably know, but yeah, I'm not meaning to blow sunshine. This is just a sincere thank you. I'm not one of those guys that comes and hands out, all this money at the end of a day. But I just want to tell you from the bottom of my heart, man, it's been so, and we're not done.
Yeah.
But here's an opportunity for me to say it out loud that I really appreciate uh, you being my coach for all these years, man, and all the however hundreds of hours we've been on the racetrack together, and how
Yeah.
much fun that is, and how fun it is to ride with somebody that trusts. I mean, there's a certain amount of trust you have to ride together with me because there's days we're fucking going,
Yeah.
and you for whatever fucking reason trust me, and obviously I trust you, and it's just so fun to have someone to go do that with, man.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable because it's life changing. And so I just want to say thank you for being my coach for all these years. You're responsible for, you know, a huge chunk of uh, the happiness in my life, man. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, we'll sign off and we'll see you next year for sure. I'll see you at the
Right.
racetrack. I'm not
All right.
quitting, but I'm just ramping down. So,
Yeah, maybe we can this winter make it out for some trail riding.
hey, we're waiting.